The world is constantly changing. That is something that we can all agree on as the years go by. And that change continues to happen even more rapidly. Which brings me to, why is the way we learn at schools the same way that our parents used to learn over 35 years ago? We go through years of schooling in order to get a job. So if the jobs that we're getting nowadays are so different than the ones that our parents were getting, then why are we still being taught the exact same way? The system we currently have in place is not designed for the jobs we have in place. While those people that vouch for the current system say that the knowledge we learn in certain subjects transcends time, I believe there needs to be change. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the educational system, why I think that there should be some change, and what are some ideas for those changes. So over 150 years ago, Massachusetts was the first state to start providing free public education. And as the years went by, all the other states in the United States jumped on the bandwagon. These schools were a group of roughly 28 students in a classroom, and they were all the same age and taught by the same teacher. The system was inspired by Horace Mann's ideals, which was the origin of Prussia's educational system in 1843. The idea was to create a tolerant and civilized society who could follow orders and would fit into the industrial system once they joined the workforce. Schools assembled masses of students to be processed by teachers in schools the same way that factories assembled a bunch of raw material to be processed by workers in a factory. Knowledge was divided into different subjects with no concept of an interdisciplinary subject. After all, you had to learn one job and one job only when you were working in an assembly line. Students marched from one place to another once the bell rang, the same way that people in a factory would go from one part of the assembly line to another as a bell rang. Even the administrative hierarchy of a school system was modeled under industrial bureaucracy. Now that you understand a little bit more about the foundation of our educational system, let's explore why this is so outdated. As I said before, we have all experienced the changes in the world. Whether it be that something you learned your freshman year is no longer relevant by your senior year, that your parents now have standing desks, open spaces, open cubicles, or even that the job that your parents or your friends have now didn't exist 5 years ago. So if we all go to school hoping to one day get a career, why is our system still preparing us to work in an assembly line factory when those barely even exist? If you ask me, that does not seem right. John Dewey is a huge advocate for the implementation of a new educational system. In his books, The School and Society and Democracy of Education, Dewey claims that rather than preparing citizens for ethical participation in society, schools cultivate passive pupils via insistence upon mastery of facts and disciplining bodies. We need entrepreneurial minds like the ones that created Apple and Google, not this. Speaking of Google, 15% of Google's engineers never had a formal education. Clearly, whatever people are learning in school isn't crucial information needed to become a top engineer. That's a little weird. In fact, it can be found in classes online. You can take the same classes that MIT students are taking for free. So why are you even paying for an education, whether that be through taxes or privately? Is it even worth it? A school should add value to your knowledge and development base, not teach you something you can learn by yourself online. I hope it's now clear why the system we have in place is outdated. Peter Diamandis said there will be as many changes between 2016 and 2022 due to exponential technology growth as there was between the 1900s and the 2000s. So let's dive into some of the things we can do to change the educational system. The most important takeaway when it comes to adapting to the world we live in is noticing that there is a trend shifting from standardization towards customization. Schools need to support this by providing more than just a standardized curriculum. This can be done by adding elective classes where students can study special topics that they wish to, or even letting them create their own classes. Furthermore, we must take note that every individual is different and some may have a steeper learning curve than others. Therefore, we shouldn't be putting them together by grade level, but we should be putting them together by knowledge and skill. This way, they're going to feel more challenged and they're going to feel like they're being rewarded for the work that they put in. In addition, as John Dewey, which I previously mentioned, suggests, is students thrive in an environment where they are allowed to experience and interact with the curriculum. Schools should hold more debates and opportunities for students to discuss and brainstorm ideas instead of lecturing them on concepts and facts that they can't even really talk about. We also must note that each individual learns better a certain way. So schools should take advantage of the technology that we have today to enhance the students' experience by providing them with different learning mediums. This can be created by a combination of in-class activities, online tutoring, and different lab sessions where they can experiment with what they've learned. There is no longer a need to form a tolerant and conforming society. We must produce critical thinkers that will lead the world into progress. While there is value to the current educational system, I believe we need to adapt to accommodate the student of the future. By keeping our foundation but creating a more personalized and dynamic learning experience, we are producing citizens that will strive to change the world and develop innovative ideas. I hope that by learning about the current educational system and how it correlates or doesn't to the world we live in today has made you to believe that the changes must be made.